very cheap. Like, well, is it the Chicago area? Yeah, usually. Much easier. Yeah. I go to Mitchell's, I go to my brother's and so live and then just can't walk sometimes my grandma's hour and a half to 2 hours there. No, it's like 8 hours, 8.5. Mitchell's, it's west of St. Paul's, hour and a half.
What? Spain is down to the 0?
Yeah, I get it.
Many birthdays.
Oh, no.
Black Hills.
Okay, so this is, thank you for coming. This is a time for us to just basically talk a lot about how we've gone about building a professional learning network and what the benefits are of that, and the tools that we use to do that, and why that's important. And so it really is supposed to be discussion. So if you're not up here in the front with us, that's okay. I can run around and bring you the mic, no problem. But it will be helpful if everybody suits up. Pretty pleasing thing. Do we have another one? No.
Hey, I'll wander around.
Do you want a handheld?
Yeah.
So we just take a couple seconds and then we can check.
1, 2, 1, 2, testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
I do too. Yeah, I guess the session is 4. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So the idea here is really like for us to be able to just have some time to talk about a PLN. When I say PLN, how many people feel like you know what that even is? First? Okay, so to me, PLN is a professional learning network. A professional learning network is a group of people that you're learning with. That's it. That's all it is. And a lot of the time, folks kind of equate this idea with something happening online. Like a PLN happens online. Maybe it's a Twitter chat. Maybe it's a Google Plus community. Maybe you're just having this communication through email. Whatever it might be. And I would say all those things are your PLN. But the most important piece to me is none of those. The most important piece to me is face-to-face meetings. When you actually get to sit down and talk to people about whatever it is that you're trying to learn more about. And so what we did was, there was a group of us who kind of got together, and our plan was to essentially take over an EdCo, right? That was our initial goal. And so we actually have a document that says an EdCo takeover document. And what we did was, we were thinking about how we do sessions at an EdCo or tie, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go with an EdCo at tie, or tie at an EdCo, I don't know. It's like on ice skating, right? What we wanted was, we wanted to be able to give presentations and provide differentiation. That was our initial goal. We wanted to be able to come in and give presentations that had some differentiation. Well, you guys have been in presentations just like I have. If the person standing in the front of the room with the microphone says, okay, everybody who's brand new to Evernote, come sit here. Everybody who kind of knows Evernote, come sit here. What's going to happen? Everybody's going to go out there, right? But people say they want differentiation. They want professional development at their level that meets their needs. So our plan was, how can we make that happen and still keep people in the room? And the answer for us was, we're going to get a bunch of people together. We're going to do all our presentations. We're going to put all our resources in one place. And when we do those presentations, we're going to have 3, 4, 5 people there to support and help. And that's how we're going to provide differentiation. And that's how it started. So we came up with this resource. That is the coeducators.net or coeducators.org website. It hosts all of our materials for all of our presentations, and that's how it began. But what it's turned into since then has been earth-shattering for us. we had a couple of entry points for our PLN, for our little group of people. We started off with some folks from Littleton and DPS and Douglas County and Jeffco, and we made a little group and we started going to happy hours once a month. Just to hang out and be friends. No agenda, nothing like that. Just come hang out, friends on Friday, like that's it. And then we started a little hangout. We started talking to each other, a little chat. And then we started getting all these other ideas. And some of these ideas have turned into pure amazingness. For example, I was singing at a conference called Highway 21 a couple of weeks ago, and I made a joke on Twitter about a makerspace dance party. It was totally a joke. But within 15 minutes, we had people donating stuff for that makerspace that's right around the corner. It became a reality almost instantly, because everybody threw in just a little tiny bit. And that's the power of a team. Now, if we just had Twitter chats, or just a Google Plus community, and we didn't all really know each other face to face, I don't think that would have happened. People are much more bought into it because we've had a lot of face-to-face meetings, we've connected, we've hung out, we've had fun together, we like each other. So that then, when we say something like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a makerspace 2 days before an NFL? It can happen because people are bought in and they care about each other, they want to do those kinds of things. So we've probably had 4 or 5 different experiences where our PLNers really come and say, hey, help us out a bunch. And what we want to do is share it. So that's what this discussion is about. And on the Colorado Educator Network website, for this presentation, I believe it's under Tyler's name. And under Tyler, you can find the document for this particular session. And all it is it's a list of questions. Now, please add those questions. Also, please use we have a Today's Meet for this one, don't we?
Right.
Okay. So we can use the Today's Meet. It's just todaysmeet.com/PLN, capital P, capital L, capital N. You can get on the documented comment. You can get in the Today's Meeting comment. And the idea is just that every voice can be heard. They're just entry points for everybody to participate in the discussion. So whatever you're comfortable with. If you like standing up here and holding the mic, great. Here it is. If you want to participate in the Today's Meet the Today's Meet or on the document, that's fine too. So what we did was we kind of just came up with some questions to start with, and they're for everybody, by everybody. Everybody can respond. So we'll run around with the mics and basically just try to facilitate a discussion. When we started thinking about what was important about a PLN, we started in a pretty typical place. I can scroll down just a little bit. We just started off with possible questions. If you had to start with one place to build your PLN, where would you start? So who has a suggestion? Like if you were going to start a group of people that you wanted to be able to connect with, where would you do that? Google Plus? What are you?
I start with the people that I know.
Right.
Teacher librarians that I know in my district who I enjoy what they say at meetings or what they tweet about, or what, I would try and collect those people that are interesting to me, and we'll meet somewhere face to face first.
Sure. Right, I would second that, right? It sounds like a pretty basic setup, right? When we thought about this question, I think a lot of people would start the way I did, thinking of a place to meet online. And I think now that I've had a chance to go through this process, the face-to-face thing is way more important. That's definitely the place to start. I would agree.
It is for me.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else have a different idea? Okay, I can talk for an hour. I really can. I don't want to.
I would start.
Yeah.
I would start at an EDCO, since I'm here already, to start finding people and finding ways that I can reconnect with them afterwards. So my choice would be Twitter, just to get started, because I like just how simple and easy it is. But I'd also say that it's really great to start meeting people while you're here, and then in addition, make sure you find that way that they want to communicate back with you. So if it ends on that it's email, so be it. If it's G+, so be it. But you've heard me say this before, Chris. You say PD, the best PD happens around a beer. I say it happens around a plate of nachos, but it's the same idea. We need to start in the same physical space, and then then we find our ways to connect later.
How many of you would say that you've been part of a PLN that began that way? We met face to face, we liked each other, and we kind of stuck together, and we did some great things, right? That's what a PLC is to me, really. Right? It's not really that meeting that I have at school for 2.5 hours every third Wednesday or whatever. It's that group of people that I actually want to go and learn. Now, I'm fortunate my PLC is that group of people, but you get the idea. So that was the first thing we thought about is where would you start, right? And what if I didn't have computers? What about face-to-face? Well, what if you do have the tools? Then you could go to something like Google Plus, right? How many of you are participating in Google Plus? How many of you know what Google Plus is? So Google Plus, for lack of a better term, is kind of Google's social network, but it's a little more than that too. And Google Plus is one of the places that we created a community. I know Kevin's put a community on there. How many of you are a member of a community in Google Plus? Yeah. What communities? You want? EdTech coordinators of Colorado. Did you see how that would be beneficial for someone? Right? You have all these EdTech coordinators who are in one place, and so when you have a question, you don't have to email 25 people or however many it is. You can just go here and post this question. It's for everyone to see, and everyone can participate in the discussion. Super handy. What else? Other communities that have been really valuable?
We call it GT, so gifted and talented or tag.
A community for GT teachers? Is that what it was? Or SPED teachers? Or whatever it is that you teach teachers? Would be huge. What I found when I went to go make a community, I've made a couple, was that what it does when you go into Google Plus and you choose to make a community, it's just a couple of clicks. And what it will do is it will ask you if you know that there are other communities like yours already. So if you go in and try to make, like I made a student blogging network community for teachers to share work their kids were doing on, student blogs, which is great. But when I made that community, Google Plus popped up a warning that said, did you know about these other two communities that are kind of like that already? So I went and I wrote that. And I slowly started to cite my own. I started to start my own. He said to start my own. Long day. But you could start your own, or you could just jump in one that already exists. A lot of the time, you're going to find that one already exists. So just go get in where you fit in. Start playing.
So I created a Google Plus that's private just for my staff. So there's a difference between a public and a private Google Plus community. So I have one that is, again, just for my staff, and I share resources or pictures of the day or something inspiring, or they're able to share pictures from their classroom or ask a question, and then a dialogue is created online. But again, it's strictly just for my staff, so it's a great community there. And I can invite whoever I want. You could have a community for the 4th grade teachers in your school district. You could just share bazillions of resources in that one.
How many of you have been to a staff meeting that was nothing but announcements? That's what a Google Plus community is for, right? Announcements. But not only are they announcements, but you can now interact about them and have comments and discussion and share documents or whatever it is. You don't have to all go sit in a room and waste all of our 30 minutes. That's 20 of us at 30 minutes apiece. That's a lot of time that's getting wasted when what could be done with a quick post in Google Plus that we all see. Now I know that doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody's going to check that space, and I get that. We all kind of live differently digitally, and that's fine. But just a suggestion. So Google Plus and Twitter are big ones. How many of you are on Twitter? How many of you are scared to death of Twitter and don't understand what it is? It's okay. Totally. We get that. And so the thing about it is you can jump into a PLN. There's a lot of different ways to get in. So we started building ours. We have some stuff on Twitter. We have some stuff in Hangouts. We have some stuff in Google Plus. But I'm going to go back again to the meetups are where the power is for us. The face-to-face meetups is really where the rubber hits the road. And when you do that piece, and then you go online and ask for things or try to get help, it's much more likely to actually happen. Because you know those people. You care about them. You know their kids' names. You know where they work. You know where they live. They matter to you. And that's when the real power of PLN, I think, kicks in. And that's not to say that I haven't had meaningful discussions on Twitter that have changed things in my practice or in my life, because I have, totally, with complete strangers. But when you're starting out, especially, I think, the value in the face-to-face, you just can't match that with any other tool. So those were some of the questions we had in the beginning. What about feed aggregators? Some of the things that happen with Twitter or Google Plus are all about trying to sort through that muck, right? So, like with Twitter, we use like TweetDeck. How many of you know TweetDeck? So TweetDeck is just a way to filter out things that you don't want to see right now. So you know you're at an Edco and there's a hashtag. It's just the pound symbol in Edco 14. And when you go into Twitter or TweetDeck or any of those services, when you search for just that particular hashtag, you are basically left with what becomes a conversation, right? So just say add column. This is in TweetDeck. And so now there's all different columns going on here. But this particular column is all the tweets that have been tagged within EDCO 14. So you can follow the discussion of what's happening at the conference here. You can find all kinds of great links, you can connect with people, and then you can meet them face to face. And again, that's where the power is for me. But that's what we mean by a feed aggregator. You take the whole mess that is Twitter, and you just pluck out that one piece you're looking for right now. And it's really handy. And you can run a chat this way. So like, there are Ed Chats, or Colorado Ed Chat, or Fifth Chat, or Wyoming Ed Chat, or there's so many of them. You can start your own. And all you need to do is decide on a hashtag at a time. So Wednesdays at 6 o'clock, we're going to do 5th grade chat. We're going to make a hashtag that's just 5THCHAT, and everybody's going to put their pieces, they're going to tweet, they're going to put that hashtag, and what you're going to get is a stream, conversation, a tweet up, right? That's what it's called. And so, technical terms, tweet up. So, in that way, you're able to meet with people and have your piece and say your piece and collaborate and connect. And there's a lot of value there. I think it's more valuable if you know the people, but you got to start somewhere. So everybody gets their own entry. Tagboard is a cool one that we just apparently added on there. Have you guys seen Tagboard? So Tagboard makes a really pretty, instead of one little column of tweets, it makes this very pretty magazine-style feed, right? So this is the EDCO feed as interpreted by Tagboard. And so each of these is a different tweet. You can reply to these people, you can retweet their tweets, you participate in this community. And that's kind of the trick that not everybody understands at first. A lot of people want to come in and just watch, and that's a fine place to start. You can be a lurker, it sounds like a bad word, but it's not. But when you start contributing and participating, people get to know you. And then that's when you start to get the really good help, because people know you. The trick is that you've got to be a great audience to get a great audience. So the more you participate, the better. Yeah.
But Chris, I don't have any time usually outside of how much I work at school, and so I don't have a lot of time outside of school, maybe because I'm a coach, or maybe because I have 7 kids, or whatever the situation is. How can I make a PLN that is valuable to me, that I'm not feeling like I'm giving up all of my time in order to stay relevant or to stay caught up on these? I mean, it seems pretty daunting for a lot of people. What would be your suggestion for that?
This is not the Mr. Moore panel discussion. What's your suggestion?
Yeah, so was.
Anybody? How do we give teachers the gift of time is the question, I think.
Well, I think it's just like anything else. It's, find a time that works for you. If you've got small children, maybe it's early in the morning. I learned once my kids were a certain age, early in the morning was my time. They would never get up earlier than me. They will always stay up later than me. So I did learn early morning is a good time. And just allow yourself, say, okay, I'm going to do 15 minutes of Twitter, and that's it. And find a good hashtag and do your 15 minutes and call it good. And I think that's the way to do it, is just kind of set your own limits. It might be doing it once a week. You don't have to go every day, every minute.
So on that, if I could just join in. Okay. My face is going to turn red.
When I was probably where it sounds like you guys were with your groups when I was first teaching, and I was awesome and had energy and didn't have a family, and almost 20 years in. So I'm trying to go back. You're talking, and it's like I see, I'm dancing on clouds. I remember being there and meeting, and I was the one that was leading up groups, and we met together. And now it does seem like everything's more technologically based. But now I am on that other side. I have young children. I do mentor new teachers. I'm in committees, things like that. How many people did you start with so that at least someone shows up? Because I feel like if I do my grade level in the district, maybe 2 people are going to show up. And not that that wouldn't be beneficial, but did you find that there were certain things that worked better than others, or ways to encourage people more, or?
Fear.
It works for me.
I joke, but
Fine.
only kind of.
Yeah.
Right? I think that what's missing in a lot of people's professional development is a plate of nachos, as Kevin will tell you. My opinion's a little different, but you get the idea, right? I think the best advice I ever got about the whole social media piece, which is not exactly your question, but was from Carl Fish. And what he said was, people start this and they feel like they have to follow every single thing that happens and they can't miss a single beat. And if you do that, you're going to kill yourself. You can't drink the water, you can't drink the whole river, or eat the whole elephant, or however you want to look at it, you can't do that. What you can do is every once in a while, walk up to the river with a shot glass, take a little sip. And that's it. And what I've learned is that a few really meaningful relationships it's so much better than a million superficial relationships. A lot of the times we talk to classroom teachers or administrators or whoever it is, and they're like, I have 20,000 followers and all these connections, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, cool. I've got these 10 people who I know really, really well, and when I tweet, they answer. And so part of it is how you make time and find time. Part of it is kind of prioritizing the connections and trying to build those relationships. And if it's somebody that you know and care about, you just kind of naturally find ways to carve that time out.
And I think the word priority always comes up when I talk to teachers. If it becomes important to you to have a connection with other educators for whatever reason, or for me, it was that I needed to feel supported because I was so isolated in my position. And there were very few other people in that same position as I, so I went and found people who I knew I could be supported by.
Right. How many of you have a job where you're kind of like, I'm an island?
I'm an island.
Right? I'm an island. I love my job and it's cool or whatever, but I'm kind of the only one who does what I do. This is perfect. Like finding the librarians, or finding the GT teachers, or finding those people who are scattered all over the place, and you can kind of connect this way. Very powerful.
And I think another idea, especially if you're thinking about like face-to-face, is find kind of like people, for people in a similar situation. So if you have young children, why not meet at the park? Take your kids to the park, they're playing together, and you have your little PD time where you're talking together, sharing ideas, and the kids are playing and you don't feel guilty, take a quick lunch and do that. If you're a person without kids, then maybe you get together anytime, 10 o'clock at night works for us. But I think you kind of look at that, who are the people that are in the same kind of life situation as you? Someone who maybe your spouse was also get along, you just get together for dinner, they talk sports or whatever, and you do your thing.
Sorry, I kind of lost our place here. Twitter chat times. If you're looking for Twitter chats, because whatever Twitter chat you're thinking about creating right now, I'm pretty sure already exists. There's a guy named Cybrary Man. I forget his real name. What's his name? Jerry Lillengartner or something like that, right? Cybrary Man. This guy has this list of every Twitter chat that there is. And I don't care what you're into, he's got it. It already exists and you can find it. It's already a Twitter chat, whatever you're into. And so that's the schedule of all the Twitter chats that are happening right now. All you have to do is jump on Twitter at that time or TweetDeck at that time or whatever, tool, and use that hashtag or create that column, and you can participate. You're going to learn a ton. You're going to connect with other educators. And it's going to help. It's going to be helpful. It's that mental health piece too. Like being able to talk to somebody who gets it. I say all the time, you can't put a price on mental health. And I'm not saying that your PLN should just be a group of people who come together and kind of bitch and moan. But every once in a while, you need to be able to get something off your chest to people who understand it and who maybe aren't your boss. Right? So this can be that place.
I just think it's important also to relate with people who can push your thinking and challenge your thoughts and throw some more curveball in there. It's like, oh, like
Yeah.
So, in addition to finding the like-minded people, look for a chat that you'd be like, why would I want to go to that and hang out and see what happens?
Absolutely. My favorite place to be is a room full of people smarter than me. And a Twitter chat's a great way to make that happen. Right? And I get that it's intimidating. I do. But I promise you that starting down that path can end really, really, really well. even though it's difficult. So
Let
there's
me add to that. So I'm in the same boat here. I'm 20 years into education. I've got 2 middle schoolers that live in my house, and they're going 50 different directions at once. And I get that, and I'm with you. But I think starting out just small is the key. I think, just to reiterate that point, I think sometimes it's like we got to jump in with both feet yesterday in order to make this work, and that's just not the case. And so although this is a big part of my professional life, and what it did is it sort of re-energized me to some degree. I was tired, and I was sort of, wouldn't say necessarily flatlining, but I was starting to hear my own voice, and it was just starting to echo. And so I needed the challenge, and I needed the different voices to come into my head and question what I was doing and encourage what I was doing. And that lit something. And so now all these people up here that I get to spend a lot of time with, I met on Twitter. And now we meet once a month, and some of us are there every month, and some of us are not. And so again, I started out, and it relit that fire that I had when I was young and had hair and no gray hair, and
yeah.
And just to go off that, like exactly what Tyler was just saying, I just sigh a lot on Twitter. Like, I'll just watch, and in these Google Plus communities, and so it's fine if I'm out of it for a week, but then I watch it for a week, and I'm not being a huge part of the conversation, and then once I feel comfortable, then I dive in a little bit. And it might take a while, but then I don't feel like the pressure to be in there all the time, and then you start to learn that you want to be in there and you want to be a part of the conversation.
So when you guys are doing these, like he was just showing the different conversations, is somebody setting up like, hey, if you're talk, we're going to talk about blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, so
sometimes it's organic. Sometimes someone asks a question and they might not get an answer until tomorrow. I mean, no. So sometimes we do plan to meet. So if we're going to plan an ed camp or an event, we'll all get on the video chat at the same time and open a document, and it's more formal, I would call it. The informal side, Nate, pull up that window, that little chat window. Yeah, so that's just, see, there's 81 people in there. So that's very much sort of lives in its own world, and the conversations in there are sort of these little pockets of conversations, and may not have anything to do with the other, but it's, I need this, anybody have an idea for that, trying to figure out, so the latest thing in there, can we convert a PDF that is in Drive to an image where comments can be made? So, boom, 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 a few people jumped in there, that was like an hour and a half ago, and we kind of chatted about it, and there you go. And whether the question was ever answered properly, who knows? But anybody that's of that 81 can participate. It's not limited.
So that tool is a Google Hangout.
We just keep inviting people.
And so it's an extension.
Yeah, you should join.
It's a Chrome extension. And when you start Google Hangouts, it's just like a text message, except more than one person can get it. And this is what we call a persistent hangout. So we have this all the time. It just runs. Now, sometimes I have to turn off notifications because it gets a little annoying. And sometimes people are talking about things that don't apply to you specifically. But that conversation just runs all of the time for us. You can start a hangout with whoever you want. You can also join ours. It's wide open. I mean, we'll totally let you come in. It's called a catered hangout. But the things that have happened from that, organically or as a planned thing, have been amazing. Like I was saying earlier about the makerspace. I literally sent out a tweet one day as a joke about a makerspace dance party at Medco. Totally a joke. And it wasn't 15 minutes before the 81 had made it a reality. And we had IKEA's making donations, and we've got the Raft Colorado community making donations, and we've got people going out and getting cardboard and markers and ribbons and whatever, and bringing it here. And it happened completely organically. So it just kind of depends, this particular hangout is a group of really, really passionate educators. And it's been really beneficial. But it's just one way, right? It's just one tool that happens to work for that particular group. It's not the right way or the only way, it's just a way. So let's see. Twitter chats we talked about. Lurker versus contributor versus that one friend. So, like you just heard Katie talking about being a lurker. That's the term we use. That is basically somebody who's just kind of watching a conversation happen. And there's value there, and there's nothing wrong with that. The word lurker sounds kind of spooky, but that's just what we call it. But that's what it is somebody who's just basically watching and learning. And then there's contributing, right? And so this is somebody who's decided to make that jump and start participating in the conversation, writing in, saying things, doing things, making things happen. But then there's also that one friend. And that one friend is the contributor who's gone too far, right? And I joke about this, but we learned this lesson the hard way more than once, where somebody jumps in and is really prolific. They have a lot to say, and now they have an audience for the first time. So they say a lot, all the time, about themselves usually, and how great they are. And you've all had that one friend, right? And they probably didn't stay your friend that long, because they're annoying. Well, the same thing happens here, right? A lot of people think about social media, and they see the kid in the corner huddled up in his hoodie who's like going away from you. And this is how it should be, the exact opposite. But sometimes people get a little too enthusiastic, and they become that one friend. So just watch yourself, right? Don't be that one friend. Share and lift other people up as much as you're trying to get help and find answers for yourself. And so that's what we try to do. Into all hours of the night, that's true. Katie's making a joke. We were editing our website at midnight one night, but she happened to be in Ohio where it was 3:45 a.m. and the hangout was blowing up. Okay, so PLN etiquette, like what are the rules, what are the mannerisms, norms for this? So what are the good times to do these things? If you want somebody to read your tweet, do you send it at midnight? Probably not, depending on who you're trying to reach, I guess, right? We've learned that a lot of the time, our best traction is when people are eating. Those are good times because people will stop what they're doing, and they might have their phone or their tablet or whatever handy, and they're checking these things because they're taking a break. And how often do you do it? Like, what do you think about that? Anybody who's participating in the PLN, what are the best times, or how often do you participate, or how much do you participate, or what are some other best practices?
I'm like in the middle, so this is awkward. I kind of started off with Twitter like in 2009 when I first got into Twitter. I was in college doing my undergrad to become a teacher. I just stumbled across this blog post as I was doing some research for a paper one night, and it was talking about building a PLN with Twitter. And I read it and I was like, wow, I was just posting things about ice cream and food and things like that. I had no idea there was this opportunity. And so I got on Twitter and I looked at the hashtag EdChat. Whoa, overwhelming. I was like Tuesday night at 7 o'clock or whatever it is, and there's all of these people just having a conversation on Twitter. And it's valuable and there's meaning behind it. So I started there just as this really big lurker. I was brand new. I wasn't even a teacher yet. I had only done like one semester of observations in the school. I had no idea what I was doing. And then I found out that there was an English teacher chat, or IngChat. And I started looking in that one. I was like, man, these people have great ideas. They have great stories. They have great resources. And so then I started, adding a couple people here, adding a couple people there. And before I knew it, my capstone class as an undergrad, I actually gave a presentation to my class about building your professional learning network or personal learning network on Twitter. And my professor thought I was crazy. But the biggest thing that I found from it is if you're on Twitter and you know who Steve Anderson is, or his Twitter handle Web2O Classroom, I was doing this project, and I had seen how much he'd been on Twitter and how much he'd been interacting with people, so I just sent out a tweet to him and said, hey, I'm doing a session for my college class. I'm trying to get some people on board. Do you have any research that I can use? Not just like anecdotal evidence. I want research. Well, within about half an hour, he replied to my tweet with a link to a document that he had made that was 5 pages of research articles and journal articles that were all about engagement with social media and developing professionally through these social networks. I tried to show that to my professor. She still didn't like it. Now she's on Twitter. I got her eventually. But I think the biggest thing for me was I just had to lurk. I just had to see what it was about before I could dive in. Even now, I'm much more of a lurker than a lot of people. And I think that's okay. I don't worry about my tweet counts. I don't need my tweet counts to be in the 12, 13, 18,000 tweets since I started. I don't even know how many I have. I know I don't have that much. Because it's not about that. It's about when I feel comfortable engaging in a conversation, then that's when I engage in conversation. It's about finding the people that I know I can connect with and who will have a meaningful relationship through Twitter. And that's how I got started. And now, true story, I was at the first Ed Camp in Denver a couple of years ago, and I was on Twitter because that's what everyone was doing. It was kind of cool at the time. And this guy named Tyler was tweeting, and I looked at his picture and I was like, he's like sitting right next to me. And so that's when I met Tyler. It was pretty cool though, to be able to just realize that there are people right here that we can meet face to face and have conversations with and build that network.
So again, it's not just all about Twitter. I mean, that's been a kind of the gateway drug for a lot of us, but it doesn't have to be that's all there is to it. Some other things that are important, we have a couple of links up there. We've talked a lot about the chats. What's below this? Or at the end, yeah? Perfect. So what are some questions that you have for anybody who's tried this or who hasn't tried this? What are some questions? You have questions?
So I just finished my second year teaching, and I had 2 amazing teammates, Katie being one of them, and my other teammate, Liz. And I didn't call them my PLN, they were my life raft. My first year teaching. And they supported me in everything, but I learned so much from them. But for all of the veteran teachers in the room, forgive the metaphor, but what can I do now to put my oar in the water and move that life raft along with other people and to support those teachers back? Because I feel like I've learned so much, so I'm like, how do I keep this going?
But how? Like, in what specific way? I had yeah. So,
First of all, we learned a lot from you. But I had life rafts my first years. You know, I think we probably all did. That's the only reason we're probably still doing it. So then, in a couple of years, you're going to find somebody that needs you, and then you do it like they were saying, pay it forward. Yeah, it's cool when you can. Too.
You mentioned that people brag about the number of followers they have, but you have 10 that you have a great relationship with. Is there a point in PLN where there are too many?
Absolutely. But
How do you
it
recognize?
depends on you, right? I think everybody has their own tolerance.
Expand on that, Chris. What do you mean by that?
It's like more about that. I think that there can be a limit. I think that there can get to be a point where it's too big and it's too much and it's too overwhelming and it's hard to follow. I think it's discombobulated, disorganized. That can happen. When we first had this hang-up going, my first thought was, I gotta turn this thing off. This is driving me crazy. I don't care about 80% of what's said here. It's too much. I stuck with it for a little bit, and then a lot of value started coming out of it, and my tolerance level kind of changed. And then I stayed in, and I kept at it.
Is it because people changed how they use it, or because your tolerance?
I think what happened, and this is just for me, I guess, but what happened for me was I started to see the value that was happening. It wasn't just everybody asking questions. People were getting answers, and things were happening, and that took a minute to happen, And so I'm lucky I didn't kind of bow out early. But I think that for everybody kind of has a different tolerance, and it's about finding people who push you but who are like-minded, and finding a group that you're comfortable with, and then just sticking with it. And I think that everybody kind of adjusts as they go.
So there are also tools that you can use to manage. I will follow anyone who follows me, unless they're a vendor, and sometimes I'm a little more picky about that. But I use TweetDeck, and rather than looking at my whole Twitter flow all the time, I sort things into my columns in TweetDeck. And say I just want to look at tweets from Colorado educators, I created a list of Colorado educators who tweet. Or maybe I just want to look at teacher librarian tweets. So I can organize the people that I follow in that manner, or even create any kind of list that I want, if I want to keep that flow a little bit smaller than total number of the people that
I just think about that last question about what can we do better as we start teaching students to create a PLN and use it well. What I think about is, I've got a couple of friends now in my life who were friends like in 5th grade that I've managed to stay in contact with since then. And that was hard. But then I think about my 5th graders today. Their ability to stay in contact, it couldn't be easy, right? A lot of the time things happen because of who you know, and our kids have the opportunity to stay connected forever. So how do we teach that? How do I teach kids to develop their own learning network now, if I'm not doing it myself? And for me, that's a big part of the reason why I do these things, whether it's the Hangouts or the Twitter or meetups or presenting or whatever it is. It's that I want to learn how to learn better, and I want to be able to teach my students that. So in order to model it for them, I have to do it myself. And a lot of the time, that's what pushes me when I've had too much or I don't feel like participating anymore. And that's just my personal thing, but what do you guys think about that last question? What about students in the field? How many of you could point to something you're doing to help your students create a learning network for themselves that's going to last?
I don't want to answer that particularly, but when you said it's easier for them because they have all this already, but I think it's also harder because they don't get that connection face to face. Necessarily, I think it's easy for, like, my daughter's on Facebook. She's 17. And my other daughter's 12, and I'm older. I have a Facebook yet because she's got there. She's not on, I don't think she's there. But I also think Carolyn, my oldest, has all these friends on Facebook. But my point to her is, are they your friends? And what do you share on there? And I think it's important for us to show them the connections. You can see you have in a group just by the presentations that for that network they need that connection, and it's just not out there. It's what you relate to. So I think first of all we need to show them that,
right?
So they have that in their times of troubles. They know they have go-to people.
Absolutely. That's a great.
And then you have then how to use that medium otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's so simple that it's too complicated. I was reading one of Noah's posts somewhere, said something about simplicated. It was the combination of the words simple and complicated. And that's this, right? That's your point, exactly. Like, it's so simple for them to stay connected, and it's so easy that it makes it very complicated. How to manage that. And absolutely, it's a skill. I mean, some people would say it's a literacy. Whatever you want to call it. Managing that is something that we need to be able to model for our kids. It's something that they're going to need to be able to do.
All right, so I'm going to do this from the mic. The thing about this is because we're taking, the point behind personalized learning environments and also PLNs in particular, it's really about the people. And so one of the things that I get a little careful about is the reason I have relationships with Chris, and I knew Tyler on Twitter long before I ever met him in person, Nate's the same thing, Nikki the same thing. The idea was, it really is about the people, and you are making meaningful, real relationships, just like I do in real world. So when I was in middle school, I had every kid in my class was my friend. And that was the reality of it, right? Like, we're all buddies. Things happen naturally and organically. So like some of the questions like about like how does my, how do I limit my PLN? You're going to do it because you're going to realize there's value here, there's maybe not as much value there. You're going to use tools, just like Nancy mentioned about like, I could use like TweetDeck, and I think Nate put in something about like even within Twitter, within the platform, it has easy ways to make lists that you can follow. There's other add-ons you can get, or other services you can use where you can actually aggregate just the feed from a person if that's what you want to see. So like, I can be my filter, but I'm not actually out to try to limit those relationships either. There's people out there that I connected with right now, and I'm not sure when that's going to pop up again. There was a gal I met last year, and this is the narrative of the PLN, right? Like, gal I met last year facilitating something here in a group session. She and I were talking, and we just connected, and that was it. She followed me, I followed her. We didn't talk once for a number of months, but she remembered I was talking about ELA strategies, and she said, well, do you have anything? And I said, oh, you know, it's great. Just like last week, I went to an ed camp, and Chris Moore told me about this thing called News ELA. So I shared News ELA over to her. She says, oh, this is wonderful. She tweets it out. I started following the tweet feed, and I started seeing that she was tweeting this out to tons and tons of people, where within 1 week of ed camp, her entire school was using this platform to try to give her students like ELA support. And if you don't know News ELA, it's really cool. It takes articles and arranges them by Lexapple. And so, but anyway, so the value of the PLN there was she and I just connected that one time, and then it was like 4 months later that she connected with me again for another resource. I have no problem with that for the relationship, but then again, when I see her in person, and I haven't seen her at the conference yet here, we can still talk and be friends and all that other stuff. So it's just like when I make it back to my reunion, I'll still be buddies with my buddies, but it doesn't mean that I'm calling them all of the time. So I also want to emphasize, just because a computer is involved doesn't mean that this is not about humanity, because the reality is I make real relationships with real people online and in virtual spaces. And so that means I also treat them like real relationships. And so I think that that's part of answering the question of what's going to be important, but then also how do I limit the feeds?
I think, absolutely. One of the things that you said stuck out a little bit, which was the whole idea of being a filter for yourself. Right? And that's the skill right there. How you filter this. And yeah, there's tools and things that can help you. But in the end, it's decisions you make as people. Right? And you are the filter. And that's an important thing to know. I mean, that's an important skill and an important thing to make sure you talk about. For sure. Other questions? Ours were pretty boring. So everybody's just ready to go rock out and make their own PLN, and that's going to be amazing. Or join ours. Either way. We're going to meet up and have a beer soon. It's going to be a lot of fun. So here's the deal. For ours, and everybody's welcome. On ours, this website will be around for a long, long time. But it will probably look different after NetCode. We've realized that our organization is probably not going to work past this. But the website will be there, and on the website there will be a calendar. And that calendar will have our events, our meetups. So once a month, we're just going to meet up somewhere in Colorado. And that's it. We're going to hang out. We're going to have some nachos. Well, Kevin's going to have some nachos. I'm going to have a flat tire. And we're just going to hang out. The only agenda item will be, when is the next meetup? You'll sit down with some people you don't know, maybe some people you do know, and you'll make a huge difference. And what we've figured out is that the way that we want to do it is we want to have people who are already kind of part of the group extend a personal invitation to someone else and bring them in. That personal invitation makes a big difference. And if I bring one new person to the group, and I hang out with them that first time, and I introduce them to all my good friends, and I really bring them in, that's going to be meaningful. If I invite 100 people on Twitter and 10 of them show up and I know a couple of them, not as meaningful, right? And again, it's about people. So our goal, and it's not like this is like a thing, but when we talk about it, it's like, if you try to bring one new person and just kind of bring them into the fold, that will work. And even if just half of us did that each time, the power would grow. The power is in the numbers, right? But like you were saying too, or somebody was saying about how it could get too big, and that's possible. And when that happens, we'll deal with it. We're not there yet. But I think the most important thing is to just get started and to give people entry points. You know, you've heard a lot of people talk about Twitter, and it's a really powerful tool, but it's not the end-all, be-all. It's, sorry, end-all, be-all, paraphrase, I'm just taking her words. But we also have the Google Plus community, we have the face-to-face meetings, we have the NetCode, it's just different entry points, different ways for that conversation to happen. And then that way people can come in and make their choice how they want to participate or where they want to watch or what have you. And that's how we do it. It's not the only way, it's not the right way. But we just started. That was the hardest part. And at first it was, I think somebody actually asked how many of you were there in the beginning. When I go and do presentations, and Nicola and I work together and do presentations, one of the things we talk about a lot is having that teammate to bounce ideas on, to try things with, to make mistakes with, to talk with, be just friends with. Because if you have that piece, you're much more willing to try new things, to take risks, to do things you might not otherwise do. Because you have somebody to kind of share with, it makes it easier. Misery loves company, I guess, right? But the same thing was true here. We started out with just a couple of people, and we very slowly started adding and adding and adding. And it's grown, and it's really powerful, and it's really cool. But the hardest part, I think, was just starting. Taking that risk, seeing if it would happen. By far, the first step is the hardest, right? I mean, that's been my experience.
And when we do meet, sometimes we talk about teaching and sometimes we don't. I mean, the topics are all over the place, but the point is to get to know just each other and each other's stories, the lives that, well, I assume we have lives that, to some degree outside of teaching. But just to kind of get to know those, and that furthers the relationship. It deepens the understanding. You understand what fans someone's fire. So that when you are talking in whatever medium it is online, you can hear their voice. You know, you can hear their passion in their words because you've heard that before in person. And it's fun, and we laugh a lot, and it's just an enjoyable place to be. And there's no pressure on it. It's just an enjoyable place to be and kind of get to know each other's stories and bounce ideas off each other.
Well, you scale your impact, like Kevin was saying. One person shares something with one other person, and then that person shares it with one other person. It's exponential. You're scaling your impact. You know, Kevin shared some resource with somebody, and next thing you know, a whole school is now different. That wasn't his intention, but it happens. The value that people find in you and what you have to offer, even when you think you have nothing, is energizing. There was a time we were at a meetup. I can't remember who it was. But it was a gentleman who came for the first time, and that day he was literally almost ready to quit his job, right? And he came to this meetup on a fluke. Somebody invited him, and he came. And he sat down, and he had nachos, and he started talking to a couple of folks that he hadn't known before. They had no idea what his day was like. They had no idea who he even was. They just started hanging out and talking a little bit. And after the fact, he went back to the person who invited him and he said, you know, I was going to quit today. I was not going to go to work tomorrow. I was done with teaching forever. And now, I have 3 new ideas that I want to go try, and I can't wait to get back to my classroom. And it's my hunch that that's happened before and it's going to happen again. You have tremendous power to lift others up, and that's energizing for you. You know? And this is one way to do that. It's not the only way. But I would hope that you would be able to find somebody or a couple of somebodies who push your thinking, who you can get along with, who you can have some fun with, and go do it. And then make it a habit and find time for it. And you will find time for it because you'll find God. So that's what we've done, and you're totally welcome to join us any old time. We're going to start tonight at the dance party. But really, though, this idea of the PLN, I think, can save education, right? It can be the difference for enough people that it can really transform what we do and how we work. And the thing that really stands out to me is, like, I don't think anybody would agree with me on this. There are pockets of excellence everywhere. You could walk into any school, in any town, and find somebody doing something that is flippant amazing. And what we're trying to do is connect them. That's it. So when somebody comes to me and says, hey, how do I learn more about keyword shortcuts? Or hey, how do I get blended learning going in my classroom? Or hey, I just got this new iPad. What do I have my kids do with it? I know who the experts are. And it's easy for me to say, go talk to Nate about keyboard shortcuts. And go talk to Maddie about how to deal with an iPad. And go talk to Miss V about how to do student-led conferences. And I know that. And I can help people find those people. And that's where I draw my energy, I think, is from from helping people make those connections. Right? That's where I draw my energy. So I hope you find a way to do that for yourself. Any other thoughts?
One of the last points that I have too about this whole idea is there is an opportunity in Colorado to connect. We have amazing resources, we have amazing teachers, we have amazing schools, districts, and everything. And one of the things that we talked about is this idea of, these chats that are going on Twitter. Well, I don't know if you paid attention to EdChat. It is ginormous. And if you look at that list of all the available chats, it's because chats like EdChat have gotten so big that we can now specialize those kind of things. There's now an opportunity to make this a scalable, smaller thing for Colorado where we can all connect. We can still connect outside Colorado, but we can have this interaction. Like we've talked about a lot of times, is this face-to-face experience really makes a difference. Whether it's nachos, water, beer, doesn't matter. The face-to-face is really what I think drives our connections and our networks.
I put the link to the Google Plus community in today's meeting in the doc. So if you want to check it out and ask request to join.
Just a private community, so you've got a request to join, and all we're trying to do is just make sure that it's teachers in there, not companies or vendors or anything. So if you just give us a request, we'll send you right in. And then you're in the Google Plus community, you can participate if you want. Or not.
Or you can learn.
Right, you learn. It's all good. It's a good thing. 3 minutes left. Any questions? No questions. Deepak Solo? See, look, let's let them in.
I only learned about that feature a couple of days ago.
And it's not working.
Oh, there it is.
So again, thank you for coming. I know that this was not like the most exciting session. This wasn't, oh, I got this great new tool I want to go try. I got this great new link. Or thank you for coming to this. Because all of the links and sessions and great tools and ideas you've gotten, if you have a PLN to share them with, you're going to retain those ideas. You're going to try those ideas. You're going to go out and make mistakes knowing you have somebody to talk to about them. And then you find the power. Right? Yeah.
I just want to say I've been to many of your sessions.
Thank you.
This week, and of your group session. And I, every single time, I've said to myself, I want to join that group. Like, how do I get into that group? So thank you for having this particular session.
Yeah, we're great. It's not like that. You're already you're here. Seriously, and tell everybody that too. Like, we're really worried about that exact thought. Like, how do I get in? Just ask me. It's wide open, please. It's not a clique. It's not the cool kids. It's anybody who wants to come play. Right? We just have lots of entry points. Well, it is cool kids, but it's not the cool kids. It's not those. You know what I'm saying? It's not high school. They are all very cool.
Also, you can touch base about the Google Educator group that Ben's trying to get talked about too.
Right. So there's this thing that's happening now called Google Educator Groups. And Google is reaching out to different locales and trying to essentially start a group, right, of what is essentially a PLN. And so we have applied for the Colorado Google Educator Group and been accepted. So we, this Colorado Educator Network group, people, us, you, we, right, are going to be running the Colorado Google Educators Group, which is, there's a lot of power there too, because a lot of people are going to want to get involved with that. There'll be a lot of people for you to meet, connect with, interact with, ask questions. So that's happening, which is fabulous. Anything else?
Up now, or you're starting?
We've been officially nominated and accepted, but I don't think that the thing has actually happened yet. So the hard steps are done. Now it's just making it live. Anything else?
If you're on Twitter, what is the hashtag that you can use to stay involved with this conversation too?
For this crew, right, the hashtag is CoEdNet. CoEdNet. And we had a lot of problems with that co-ed piece because it just doesn't necessarily reflect educators. But that's how it goes. So one of the things that's happening is people are trying to start up a Twitter chat, and that's fine. I know the Google Plus group exists. I know that we have different hangouts happening. Again, it's just different entry points. You don't have to do any of that. Just show up and have nachos. We'll put up a thing about once a month. We'll try to meet up somewhere, usually in the metro area. What we'd like to do eventually is have some offshoots. So maybe have like a little offshoot in like the Grand Junction area, or Super Southern Colorado, or So we'd be happy to help make that happen, right? For sure, yeah. We could replicate this very easily, in other places, for sure. So we'd love to. It's all just part of the plan.
It'd be awesome if we could do something like that, where we had, a group in Grand Junction, Colorado Springs, and Hannah and I were talking about this too. If we could make it at the same time, then we can all have hangouts, so we're all talking together.
Thanks for sticking with us. I think this is a really important discussion to have, and I think that it's kind of a hard discussion to have. A lot of people are uncomfortable with it. Stepping out of your little bubble is tough, and for teachers especially. That's just the nature of the beast. It's how a lot of us are. But if we want to model it for our students, which really is my motivating factor, then I think it's a necessary step. Good job. Good job. So anyway, please spread the word. Join us. Start your own thing, but get some buddies. Get some face-to-face connections, and make the learning that happens at things like this real for you. Make it stickier. Make the learning stickier, right? That's what it does. When you have somebody to talk about this stuff and then go try it with, you're much more likely to continue or to be willing to make mistakes, and that's where learning happens, right? And that's what this really is all about. So, thank you.